President, Director General, Vice President Group Havis, graduates, parents, and the many guests in attendance here this evening, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be here and to share with you information about ACVSP. I welcome these opportunities to come and talk when I'm invited so that you will be able to leave here more prepared to talk about the value of the accreditation of the degrees that you have received here and the role ACVSP provided in that. The value of speaking about graduating from a school that has been accredited by ACVSP. As I thought about it and did research, I found an interesting fact. I thought you might want to know that the word accredit actually has this meaning in a 17th century French word, accréditer, which means to give credit or to add credit. Now, if you do not have to take my word for it, but rather, I'd invite you to look it up sometime on the internet. Maybe not now. I don't want all of you reaching for your devices. I know that you probably have them, and that would be the tendency, but let's just wait until we've finished our evening here. Returning to our word of credit, I just want to note that you are acquiring credit here today for the work that you have done as graduates during your academic career. CMH and IEMI started on their path to begin to receive their credit for accreditation approximately 20 years ago when they joined ACVSP as a member. And given the fact that we are just 25 years old this year, you can see that both of these schools were there at our very beginning. And it was also an early stage, especially for schools in Europe, to embrace this American accreditation product that was now being offered. It was sometime later that they did achieve the accreditation, but it did start with these two schools, and that should be a source of pride to you as it is a source of pride for me being up here this evening. We have grown from those humble beginnings to where now ACVSP is the second largest accrediting body in the world. The schools here join 1,220 campuses around the world that are members, and of which about just over 900 of them have obtained accredited status. To achieve the status of being accredited, our schools that go through this process must demonstrate that they meet our various standards and criteria. They must do more than just document their practices with regard to our standards and criteria. The schools often must make changes to meet those requirements. If there's not a strategic plan in place for the business programs, one will need to be put into place. That's just the nature of meeting standards and criteria through the accreditation process. Further, it doesn't stop after a business school meets our standards and criteria, but rather we require that they engage in a continuous improvement process during the entire time that they have accreditation. A number of years later, typically 10 years, they must come back and redocument that as our standards have been updated, that they have also updated their work. That makes this not a static process, but an ongoing process, both for us as ACVSP, but also for the schools that choose to obtain accreditation through us. Now, what's the focus of some of these standards that we might have? Well, the number one is leadership. As you might imagine, an important criteria. Strategic planning is another. For the students out there, one of the requirements is that there's an assessment of student learning that takes place, documenting that learning does occur and that programs are being measured with regard to their quality. Another one focuses on the operation of the business unit, and then a final one focuses on stakeholders. And that means you that are here as parents, as a stakeholder, how the business school has met you and served your needs during their time of being accredited, and also for the employers that are here. to know that we have that as an important component of our stakeholder focus. Now, we did not just make up these standards and the criterias, but rather we have adopted them from something called the Malcolm Baldrige Criteria for Performance Excellence. Now, I fully recognize that in this audience, there's a great number of individuals that may have not heard that phrase, Malcolm Baldrige Criteria for Performance Excellence, because it really is primarily a US-based term. Malcolm Baldrige was Secretary of the Department of Commerce for the United States government. Approximately 25 years ago, there was a great deal of concern about the quality that was occurring in manufacturing. Those of you that have studied quality management know it was during the time that there was a creation of ISO 9000 programs, and also in Japan there was the great emphasis on the Deming method. Well, Malcolm Baldrige felt there was a commitment by the United States government to find a way to document the quality that should be occurring in manufacturing. And he led the effort during his time as Chamber of Commerce to establish the criteria for performance excellence, and later it was honored and named in his name. What ACBSP did about 10 years ago was to take this same criteria that exists for manufacturing, healthcare, and higher education, and take the standards and write it for business schools. So business schools would essentially have their own performance quality measurement based on this Baldrige performance. We did it in cooperation with a number of people, including the Department of Commerce and Steve Parskeller, Director of Accreditation, who we hired, and because he was a Malcolm Baldrige examiner. Now, admittedly, it's a US-centric term, US-centric quality standard, but as you would travel and have an opportunity as graduates or as parents to talk about accreditation to individuals who might have an American-based company, you might mention the Baldrige Criteria for Performance Excellence. It's a well-known standard. Many companies, such as Ritz-Carlton, have met that standard in their industry over a period of years as one name in which you would maybe most familiar. I think it will be important that just as you may not be totally familiar with the term accreditation, if you can say that your business school has undergone a process that's based on the same criteria and activities that's used by the Baldrige National Performance, the light bulb will go on. They'll recognize that this is a business school that has not only engaged in a commitment to you as students, but a commitment to engage in the quality of education that they have provided to you. They will recognize what the Baldrige program is, and that is a measurement of data, documentation of quality, and a commitment to continuous improvement. That's what you would expect of any businesses that you would enter into the workforce, and by their accreditation process, these schools have given that to you as your graduation. For employers in France, I might say that in this country and other countries, similar programs have developed based on the fact that there's a Baldrige criteria. Here in France, there's something called the French Quality Award. Now, it's not administered by the French government the way the United States government administers the Baldrige program, but rather it's administered here by the MFQ, the French Movement for Quality. So as you would travel anywhere around the world, you would find in most countries there is a quality program standard similar to Baldrige. And so if you can't think of the Baldrige criteria, think of the criteria that exist in these various countries and their commitments. Sometimes it's by the government, sometimes it's by a chamber of commerce or industry organization. Other times it's like it's here in France, and that is an organization that has been set up specifically for creating a commitment to quality. While these programs are in each country, ACBSP is not that kind of accreditation quality process. As a matter of fact, our standards and our criteria are not country-specific, but they are in fact global. Now, this is a global standard that exists, and it's very important for you and for the two schools that have this accredited status to be aware of that. Not only have these two schools worked diligently to maintain the responsibilities they have to the government of France in terms of their offering of degrees and the programs that they offer, but they've gone one step further. By pursuing ACBSP accreditation, they have become part of a global network of schools, those 900 schools around the world that have accredited status. What that means for you as graduates is that you are part of that global network as well. As you would leave here today and attempt to pursue other degrees of higher education, the fact that you graduated from an accredited school is going to add value for of your degree that you're seeking to receive recognition for. As you work in your future world within employers, you should mention to them that you graduated from a school that has global accreditation, because it sets this school and other schools apart from that have accredited status to say that you're part of a unique group that operates in a world of business that's global, and so is the nature of the recognition that we've provided for you through this accreditation. As I begin to conclude my remarks, I just want to briefly summarize some of the talking points that you may want to consider based on what I've said today. Remember, as Veronique pointed out, the degrees that we have offered as accreditation have accreditation through ACBSP, the Accreditation Council for Business Schools and Programs. This accreditation, number two, this accreditation is based on a national quality standard in the United States, but similar quality standards exist around the world for business and healthcare and education. Number three, this is a globally recognized accreditation. It's not just for this country or any particular country, but rather it's for the entire world. And then also, thinking back to my early remarks, this is not a recent development, but the two schools have a great deal of history in terms of this involvement, as I said, going back 20 years and including accredited status within the last 10 or so.